Hey folks, welcome. We have an intervention video. I haven't done them in a while. This one actually is for Zan, who has his own Dominions YouTube channel. I'll put a link for that in the description, so go check that out. Not sure if this game is going up there, but he and I talk a fair bit. And he was telling me about this game where he was getting trolled a little bit and is frustrated with it, etc., etc. And he told me he does not think he is in a position to win, but he's in a position where he could maybe king make. But then he told me he's playing middle-aged Mictlan, and he's, broken into blood and has all that going. So, yeah, we're going to take a look at it. We're going to take a look. Okay, so the situation. So first, let's go over the mods, because this is a heavily modded game. This is not vanilla. It's got Dominions Enhanced, which is a big mod. It's got Boss Mod, which layers on top of Dominions Enhanced, and that's about it. It's also, I forget exactly what map this is. It's one of the beautiful Pymus maps. View game settings. I don't think it will tell you here. I think this is Hexawar, is I think what it's called, but I'm not totally sure. And he's playing middle-aged Mictlan, and they are about yay big. He has shared with me some score graphs. He's kind of in position 5. I was a little hopeful when I was looking at it that he was in maybe a little better spot. But yeah, he had like a really rough early game with, I think he got rushed by Anakites and had Anakites on his cap turn 6 or something, and then a few other kind of weird occurrences that he's rebounded back from. But they were pretty tough. There are quite a few players in this game. I'm not going to go over who's playing who, but the position 1 right now is Pangea. And Pangea not only is the biggest, but they also have some pretty cancer globals, like especially Mana from Heaven. This one is pretty stupid and broken. So if you like games with more gem generation and where you can just infinitely scale gem income, then play Dominions Enhanced and put up Mana from Heaven. But basically, you can take your preachers and you set them to preach, and they can generate gems for you. And for Pangea, they have dryads, which are pretty good at preaching. And so yeah, that will work. They'll get a lot of gems. However, it will, slow down your research a bit. For Pangea, if you're not researching and instead you're preaching to collect these pearls. So, there's a bit of a trade-off there. That being said, they're really big. I think they come up to like right here. So I think Pangea is basically like all of this, and then they've got like a little noodle down here. And they are fighting Lemuria. And I think Lemuria is maybe position 2 or 3, depending on how you look at it. They're pretty big. And we can't see it in the score graphs now. He had some score graphs he sent me, but the score graphs show Lemuria is kind of getting bigger. I don't know if they're kind of winning this war with Pangea, but they actually had a global up, which Zan has just dispelled. Whales of the Damned. And this puts up Wailing Winds every single combat, which actually is kind of stupid. And there's like there's some Dominions Enhanced stuff I don't love. This would probably fall into that basket. Because this is really dumb, because like if you get hit by a scout, Wailing Winds is up, and now part of your army's going to run away potentially. And if you have flyers, they run away like instantly. And playing middle-aged Mictlan, if your guys get blessed round 1, your Eagle Warriors can run away real quick. So that's, of course, a bit of a zinger. But 2 more things went up. I'm not even actually sure exactly what they were. Pangea cast something. He probably cast Gifts of Health, I'm guessing. However, from Lemuria's perspective, having Wailing Winds would be a pretty important milestone for them, because they're going to be fighting Pangea, who's probably position 1. There had been a small coalition of people to deal with Pangea. And I don't know exactly how well everybody borders everyone, but like Naba had been part of it, Lemuria had been part of it, and I believe these guys were part of it too, Airmore. And the reason that he has been pissed off is that he's been catching these little apostles from Airmore, who are Dominion spreaders, and they're Holy Threes, stealthy Holy Threes, so they can preach. And they're immortal. And he was going to try to dom push him, I guess. Airmore in Dominions Enhanced, this is early age Airmore, they have the ability to cast a global, which kind of starts turning them into middle-aged Airmore. So it's possible, and the amount of free spawn you're going to get is sort of based off your scales and whatnot. How much death you have, and then I think you need to have Dominion present. So it's possible he's getting warmed up for that. However, that spell is not up yet, but he does have Vengeful Water too. So I think he's trying to like slow push Dominion Water in here. Vengeful Water in here. It's one of the things he's really frustrated about is that this is through like a weird 2 single province connection. And so it's like, why would you mess with the guy who's potentially going to go after position 1? The reasons of people are sometimes inscrutable, but it's also possible that they're just, being a little childish or something, which is how I would interpret this. If somebody was doing this to me, I would be like, oh, they're just kind of being a kid. But it's possible that there's a reason that he thinks this is good. But yeah, I think we don't know how much Dominion is here either. And he's having to preach here this turn rather than go and finish off Pangea to go ahead and get Dominion here. And probably patrol too. Is he patrolling? Yeah, he's patrolling with a fair amount of stuff. Yeah, okay. So he'll catch anybody in here. He also needs to, if he can, soul slay these guys. So I would totally script this round 1, just fire off some soul slays, because these guys are immortal, but you can kill them permanently with soul slays. So that's definitely something I would do, is try to snipe these guys with round 1 soul slays. Now, you're adjacent to a huge army here from... This is a 1-age game, so there's actually 2 Pangeas in this game, as if one wasn't fun enough. There's early age and there's middle age. And middle age is dying, and the position 1 is, I think, early age. So he wants to come over here and finish off middle age, but he can't, because he needs to sit here and preach and patrol and catch these guys. So he needs to basically have this set up where he's going to get a bunch of soul slays off, while at the same time he's prepared for combat with these guys. That being said, this looks like mostly a hot pile of garbage, which would just completely melt to his army here. So that's happening. Meanwhile, his other neighbor, and this is one of the neighbors, this is probably his best ally. And it's because he trusts this player. This player has basically followed through with what he said. And he's also not position 1. So he also trusts this Pangea player. However, this Pangea player is the devil, with having mana from Heavens Up and Mother Oak, and is playing Pangea. So yeah, anyway, I think this is like the main strategic ally to focus on, Nabah. And he's also upset with Lemuria, because Lemuria put up this Wailing Winds global at a pretty inopportune time. He put it up right when he was about to siege through this fort, and then he lost a big stack because everything retreated. And so he was pretty pissed about that. I think what he didn't understand is that the Lemuria player may have needed to do that, because they are going to be fighting Pan, and they're probably a little bit behind the 8-wheel doing that. So I think this is like one of those things where communication is important. Now, the Lemuria player probably should have said, hey, I'm about to put this up, and then he might have been like, hey, can you wait a few turns? And ultimately, you can't stop somebody from doing it, but like you see, he, spent a ton of gems on Dispel. And, if these guys wanted to work together to kill Pan, which was their stated objective as being part of a coalition, you certainly wouldn't want to waste gems having one guy put it up, fuck the other guy over for a turn or two, and then have the other guy waste gems on Dispel. So I think we'll talk a little bit about the situation, and then we'll talk about kind of like the big picture. So we've talked position 1 Pangea, maybe like a position. These guys, I think, are all kind of tied for position 2. Nabah, Airmore. Nabah, Lemuria, and Airmore. Airmore doesn't look very big. Airmore, I think they snake down like this or something like that. They're kind of like all up in here. So anyway, that's where these guys are. And then I think we're kind of in a bit of a position 3, like we're behind all the other 4 players, but not by a ton. We're kind of close to being in position 2, is what it looks like. In terms of research, we're also, I think, 5th position, but we have pretty good research. We're kind of at the point where, like, what is a little bit more research actually going to do? I mean, we're getting kind of close to Alt 9. Yeah. And then you've got, Army of Gold, Army of Lead. And Wish. The Bless, we should talk about that. What's the Bless that we have? Attack 2, Magic Weapons, Precision 1, Shock Resistance 5, Poison Resistance 15, Fire Resistance 5, Defense Skill plus 6. That is huge. Magic Weapons, Magic Resistance 1, HP 3, Strength 7. That's huge. Dark Vision 50, Awe, and then Combat Speed. That is just a wild and crazy Bless. An absolutely wild and crazy Bless. There are, by the way, a few things I would look to do. He obviously had to pay for this. I was just clicking through looking with pretty bad scales. He should do Blood Fecundity on all of his high population places. Like, this should have Blood Fecundity on it. This should have it. How does he cast it? He should cast it with these Ananqui. And I think it's even worth it this late in the game. Just going from Death 1 to Growth 1. I mean, you're going to get an income boost, just as, the percent income. And then your population will start going up a little bit. I think it's totally worth it to do. Don't do it everywhere. But, like, this province, definitely worth it. Your cap, worth it. Basically, anything over 20k, I wouldn't think about it. And then things over 10k, I would think about it and maybe do it. So that's one thing, just like, you're not going to be winning this game anytime soon, I don't think. Though it's possible we could take a look at the thrones. 1, 2... Has he claimed all these? Oh, he hasn't claimed this one. The Throne of Misfortune. Is there a Throne Rush play he can do? Thorns of Ascension. Where are we from Mictlan? Thorns are, 1, 2, 3. Okay, there's no Throne Rush play. Unless there's more he hasn't claimed. No, he's claimed this one. This one he was pinging. This one he's claimed. Yeah, there's no way. So it's going to be a long game. You might as well get that Blood Fecundity up. But I digress. So we've talked about the Bless. We've talked a little bit about his research. Enchantment 6 is a little bit low. It's worth thinking about, like, Army of Gold is really good, by the way, in a lot of these matchups. Like, there's not a lot of air powers coming out, and I don't know whether they have air mages to do Wrathful Skies. But if they do, that's also one of the things that shuts down, like, air magic in many ways is one of the things that shuts down Middle-Age Mictlan, because these guys fly, but they don't fly in storms. So if you have Storm Staff, you could be in trouble. And if somebody has shock resistance on their Bless, and they have a Storm Staff, and they put up Wrathful Skies, and you do Army of Gold, you could be in some real trouble. However, there's other things that Mictlan gets at Alt 8, which I feel like are really important. Like, Mass Luck is really good on Eagle Warriors, and he already has that. I mean, he's already here to Alt 9, so I would finish it, but there's really important things, too, to get an enchantment. I think, well, he actually has a lot of the resistances already, so I'm not sure if he needs many of them. And he can already do Ground Army. So with Ground Army and Army of Gold, he has built-in 5 shock resistance, which would go away with the Army of Gold, but it would get built back up by Ground Army. Put him at 5. Yeah, could work. Yeah, I could see that working. So, the question now, I want to do a few things. First, I want to talk about grand strategy. Like, what is the path to maybe winning this game? Because it seems like you're in position 5. It's frustrating because you've got some guy fucking with you from this weird 2-1 province connector, who you were supposed to be friends with. And meanwhile, you don't really have a lot of great war targets. Your war targets are like Pangea, your only ally against Pangea, and then pop kill. And then maybe you could attack through here. The other context here is that Naba wants to attack Airmore, which are these guys. Every time I say Airmore, I always just assume it's middle age with pop kill, but the non-pop kill Airmore. So yeah, that's that would be there's some interesting things. So on one hand, Pangea attacking Lemuria is good because it's going to kind of use up Pangea. There's a few clocks going in this game, and the latest clock is Lemuria, the Lemuria clock. And when Lemuria gets Alt 9, they're going to usually find a way to cast Underdark if they don't have another better path to winning. So anything else you may do, you kind of have to eliminate Lemuria from the game by the time you're this late. Like, it's already too late in a way. And you really have to be worried about Underdark. Because in some ways, just like an 800 gem casting of Underdark or something is kind of good game if they can manage it. So that's one thing. And Pangea attacking them is in Pangea's interest because they probably aren't very excited about that happening. But it's also in the game interest. So them attacking Lemuria actually is kind of good for the game state. And you actually kind of want them winning against Lemuria, but winning very slowly because they're in position 1. So that's a kind of good development. Naba eating Airmore would be good if you could help him. And the reason it would be good is because this player, if they're going to fuck with you here, they're really not to be trusted. I would, if I were to, apparently somebody else had Bane Venom Charms and they were doing it, but, I don't know if it was here. Yeah, he caught this dude here too. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I would want to kill this player. And clearly they're not going to help against Pangea if they're spending their time fucking with you. So what I would probably aim to do... this is, by the way, middle-aged Pangea. This is early-age Pangea up here. And middle-aged Pangea is almost dead. They only have like 3 provinces. So I think what I would look to do is take out middle-aged Pangea. That's going to give you this little narrow corridor. Which actually, it's actually more than that. They have some stuff down here too. There's actually a fair amount of stuff. I would take out middle-aged Pangea, and then I would come through here, and Naba would conquer Airmore from this direction, and I would conquer Airmore from this direction. And it may be, though it doesn't look like it, it may be you have to have a bit of a skirmish over here with early-age Pangea to kick them out. They're not allowed to have any of this, and you may choose to kick them out here at the river, too. That gives you a nice border you can patrol and keep dryads out of. But it may be you do this, and then you make peace with them. Because them fighting Lemuria actually is really good for you, because even if you're able to, like, deal with, you know, Pangea, who's in position 1, once Underdark comes up, you're in big trouble. Now, potentially as a Blood Nation, we're going to talk more about the Blood stuff. You have a way to fight through Underdark. You can basically continue to Blood Hunt, and things will be sort of okay. However, it will put you... It is certainly way better to have income when fighting Lemuria than to go completely broke. So that's it. So I think the plan should be taking the middle-aged Airmore stuff, potentially kicking Pangea out, and then coming through here and... conquering middle-aged Pangea, potentially kicking early-age Pangea out, and then coming through and conquering Airmore. That would certainly be my plan. And I think part of this... you really don't want to have Wailing Winds up with Flyers, especially Flyers who don't have phenomenal morale. Now, yours aren't horrible at 14, but even with just the risk of that, I would also start looking, and you have a ton of gems, I would start looking at, for all my major leaders, I would start looking at giving them morale-boosting items. One of the things you can consider spending some death gems on, by the way, and this is something that Arco told me, is getting Bane Lords. And these guys are actually really good generals. So you can give these guys some like command increasing leadership so they can have bigger squads they lead. They're also not going to be they're going to be rather resistant to assassins, which is kind of nice because they're pretty big and scary. That said, they still can lose in assassination battles. But, they'll be more resistant than a lot of your stuff, especially if you put like one anti-assassin item on them. And you can load these guys up with, I think they have 80 leadership, which isn't amazing, but it's pretty good. And I think they give plus, they're inspirational, and with the 80, I think they give +2. It may not be a ton better than your Coutails, which have pretty good leadership. Maybe you have Priest Kings too, which are good. Well, these are Taskmasters, but not inspirational, but they have +2. These guys would be fine too. Put a few gems on them in case they get assassinated. They'll do Creeping Doom or something. But anyway, I would basically put your guys on guys with good leadership and give them some leadership items. And the leadership items, there's quite a few of them. We'll go through some of them. There's the Horn, which is really simple. This is +1. There is this over here. This is expensive. It's 10, but it gives you a really good weapon. And it's +1 inspirational. You also, if you're here, you may stop and get the Crown of Command. This would probably be a better pickup than the sword, but you can start getting now these are expensive. You can start getting really high leadership values when you start stacking these together. And I think there's another one too. There's a fire one. Let's see if we can find it here. Where's the god? The fire one, kind of majesty. This one, this one's really nice. It does auto charm, which is good, and inspirational and command. And then the Crown of the Titans, basically the same thing, but cheap. Yeah, this is super cheap in DE. So this is like totally one I would consider making, because you're increasing the command. You're going to get more leverage out of all the other inspirational items you put on them. So anyway, these are some things to think about. I would totally put this on your flyer, like your people leading your flyers. And the reason is because as soon as they fail the morale check, they're out. So it's a really big deal. And I would do that. First, I would talk to Lemuria, ask him not to put that up again. And I don't think you have many credible threats against Lemuria. Like, you could probably fight them. But I would just try to be friendly about it and be like, I think you just have to recognize that they probably didn't put it up to fuck you. They probably put it up to defend themselves because they were about to fight Pangea and they needed it. And like, you were just collateral damage. And so I think I would just say, hey, dude, like, I need to get a little bit bigger. I'm going to eat some of this Pangea stuff and then kick Airmore out because he's been fucking with me. And then as soon as we're ready, we're going to come help you with the Pangean war. And if I can, I'll help sooner. And maybe you can help sooner. Like, Pangea has all these unforted temples. There's nothing I like more than knocking down unforted temples. So I would probably go to work there. And we can talk about some strategies for doing that. There's so many good strategies, but this just makes my mouth water looking at all these unforted temples. But yeah, I would just find some way, be friendly with them, and find some way to get them from putting that global up for a while. Because you need to make a little bit of hay without that thing up. And yeah, I think that will be pretty good. So see if you can do that. And if they don't put the global back up, great. If they do, you're probably just going to need to put morale items on your dudes. The other thing to not dismiss is the value of doing Sermon of Courage at the beginning of combat. You'll probably need to do a fair bit of that spam turn 1 or 2 or whenever. And that will help your commanders too run from running. So consider doing that. The other thing you can do is you can communion up priests, and you can do Fanaticism, which is basically a battlefield-wide Sermon of Courage to get +1 morale, and that can matter some. And the other thing is you're pretty well set up to fight, especially if you get, like, if a mage starts running, it's not a huge deal, because it's going to take them a while to waddle off the battlefield. It's when your flyers run. So if you stack morale on your flyers with the command items I was talking about, they should kill things very, very quickly, which means, like, what are the ways you deal with Wailing Winds? Well, one of the ways is having very quick combat. So that's something you could look to do. The other important timing you have coming up, and you have 5 fire resistance, and with Army of Gold built in or coming up, you can potentially look to do Firestorm reasonably easily. And that's, of course, pretty darn oppressive. Like that could potentially wipe out this Pangea stack pretty good. It's also potentially really good against Lemuria if they don't have Army of Gold already. I think they do, because I think they were actually ahead of you in tech. So probably won't work. However, the bonus strength stuff you have on your Bless and magic weapons, you should tear through these guys if you can deal with the morale problem. But anyway, hopefully you don't end up fighting them. I think that the key to winning is you push through here, you get this. I think you just have to form basically an alliance. Like, you guys with Naba need to have just a rock solid relationship. And you have to absolutely eat. None of y'all aren't big enough right now. Y'all have to eat Airmore. And while you're eating, y'all have to eat Airmore fast. While you're eating Airmore, you need Lemuria to not die quickly. But if they die slowly, that's actually a good thing for you, because they're Lemuria and it's turn 70 or 63. Like, you can't. Lemuria actually does need to be killed, and you may actually need to help finish them off at some point. But you need to be bigger first, and you need land that has population in it. So I would go after Airmore with these guys after you finish Pangea. And I wouldn't be salty about, actually looking at it, like, I don't know. Maybe it's possible that Airmore has realized what I'm realizing. It's possible if he was a good ally, maybe the right play is y'all all gang up on Pangea. Maybe that's the right play. But if he was reading the tea leaves and seeing that, like, Naba really wanted to attack him, he wasn't going to help, and then, you didn't really want to be in a 1v1 then, or a 2v1 with you and Lemuria fighting Pangea, like, you weren't interested in that. Maybe he was reading the tea leaves. I'm like, hey, maybe I need to mess with you. Who knows? But I would just go eat him. I think the key to fighting him right now, first of all, I don't know his Bless, but I think the key to fighting him is probably doing mass protection ground army. That's going to put you up to 10 shock resistance. And then on top of that, if you get enchantment 8 and you can do mass, mass regen, and you layer on top of that Will of Fates, you will be completely immune basically to Wrathful Skies, and you can just blow them up with Wrathful Skies. And your flyer should just destroy his stuff. And I think you were already doing Weapons of Sharpness on your flyer stacks, which is really good. That makes it so that if they run into a hard target, they're not going to just, completely fail. But yeah, you take this, you run down here, you get basically all of this land, maybe you even get part of this island. And Naba attacks through here, and then y'all have split this. Then I think it's time to assess the situation between Lemuria and Pangea and probably pick sides. If Lemuria is close to dying, you might come in here and vulture him, and then go attack Pangea. If Lemuria is winning, you might actually have to join Pangea and help kill Lemuria. Because I think if Lemuria is winning against Pangea by a margin, that's a bigger deal, I think. That is a much bigger deal. Because there's basically 2 clocks in the game. One is the fact that there's a Lemuria, and the second is the mana from Heaven's Clock. So there's that. So we can talk a little bit about, we've talked some about what it would take to win. I think honestly you have better troops than Airmore is going to have. I think you should be able to win. The only problem with fighting Airmore is really they have Vengeful Water. And they're trying to do all this preaching with their Holy Threes. So that's a little annoying. Honestly, these inland provinces, you don't really have... They're not going to be very big water elementals. They're going to be really small. It's when you get on the coast, you have to start worrying about size 5 or size 6 water elementals. And when you do this, so fighting into Vengeful Water, there's going to be a few things. While you're inland, you want all your mages to have a couple gems. And if there's a couple gems, this is when you're in Airmore Dominion. If they have a couple gems, they'll summon an elemental or something, and that will be able to kill whatever they're fighting. And like this guy, with a couple gems, he'll be able to summon a big water elemental, and this will even be able to beat the other big water elementals. You know, and a water 3, honestly, with just a water lens, you don't even have to worry about it, right? They'll just do it every combat. So that's something you might look to make as some water lenses for your water mages. And he's probably doing Quickening, is my guess. Yeah, Quickening, which is a great spell. So, yeah. Have gems on your mages, especially when you're inland. When you're on a coast, though, having, you know, like the water mages will be fine, but like these guys casting Swarm or Creeping Doom, it may not be enough. Or like maybe, you know, I don't know. If they get elementals out, it's probably fine. Big elementals. But if they're not able to do that, you may want to shift to having a few guys that are very reliable. Like your important battlefield-wide buffs are only going to be on a few people, and those people have not only do they have gems, but and a lot of gems, because you're going to need to potentially survive an assassination battle and then fight in combat. But they're going to have troops guarding them, so they'll have those potentially show up, and they're probably going to have at least 1 or 2 anti-assassin items, which are going to be the items that give you a retinue of some kind. And there's a lot of them. Some of the easiest ones you can make, actually, in DE. One of them is the Sylph, which is really good. This thing is like stupidly good. You basically get like a tiny size 1 air elemental that's going to go and shock stuff. And I can't remember. I think it's ethereal. It may not be. And you get airship. It's just a great value thing. But there's a ton of things. And you can just look up all the retinue items. I mean, Lifelong Protection is one of the stronger ones, but I don't think you're going to want to spend your blood slaves on that for now. But yeah, so I think the only real complexity in kicking Airmore out of this land is going to be dealing with Vengeful Water. Yeah. Otherwise, I think you're going to be totally set. Yeah. I suppose you've already thought about how to kill Pangea. This is just a big stack of garbage. I think you'll just shred through that really fast. The only thing you really have to worry about is when Staff of Storms comes out, and then you can't fly. And it could... I don't know how it works with Eagle Warriors. If casting Storm manually is going to be in time to stop them from doing Blessing and then flying, I think it might be. However, I mean, your guys are really strong, especially with all the buffs on them. You'll probably win anyway. The other thing worth thinking about is maybe breaking your way, and I don't know how to do it best. You could air empower one of these guys. You need the Air Death cross path. If you have Bone Tribe somewhere, you could look to use one of them. I'm not going to sit here and go through all of your random recruits, but I would go check and see if you have anybody who can random Air Death and probably start getting them, because you're probably going to want at least 2. But if not, I would probably look at empowering an Anonkwi or something like that in air, because you're probably going to need to be able to put Wailing Winds up. In addition, you're probably going to want to have access to Blood Rain and stuff like that, because you're going to want to be able to do the morale plays. So, okay, that's basically the path to winning over here. Talk to Lemuria, try to keep them from doing the global for a little bit, and figure out what they want from you so that they'll do that. I mean, it could just be as simple as they want you to like promise to not dispel it, which you won't do if they wait for a while to put it up. Anyway, you come up with some agreement with them. You get this. Y'all eat Airmore. Once you eat Airmore, you're going to turn on somebody in the Pangean-Lemurian War. And now let's talk a little bit. That's like pretty far off. I think if you get there, especially if you get a lot of these spoils, you'll be looking pretty good. The other thing I think you can look for, or that we need to talk about, is how do we improve our blood economy? And right now you're getting a bunch of Anonqui, which is great because you get beast bats and all of this. Let's look at the cost of Anonqui, though. They are expensive as hell, if I recall. They're 101. The thing is, like, yeah, maybe you want to get these in the future. And sure, they blood hunt great. They're effectively like a blood 4 or 5. They're blood 5, I guess, for blood hunting. But honestly, past blood 2, it doesn't matter much, especially like if you have a sanguine dowsing rod. This is, in my opinion, the very slow way to get your blood economy going. If I were you, and we'd have to look at exactly which one it is, but it's either the Civetto or these guys, the Tampucci. I think it's the Civetto. I think you can scale your blood economy off these. I'm pretty sure. One of them might be blood 2, one might be blood 1, I can't remember. But anyway, one of these is going to be a much better, much better way to scale your blood economy. And you might look at it and be like, well, it's pretty close, and these guys give me beast bats. It's nothing close to being close. The other guys are going to be so much better. The reason is, like, let's say per blood slave you invest, these guys are going to... So let's say if you were to cast this 3 times, that's about the same cost, and you were to make some sanguine dowsing rods. Let's say that's about the same cost as an Anonqui, which it's... I don't know. The Anonqui is probably a little bit cheaper than these with sanguine dowsing rods. I mean, 2 with sanguine dowsing rods would be... One second, I'm going to pause and look up what the paths are on this. Okay, so I went and looked up. These are Blood 1, Death 1 Reanimators. Holy 2 Reanimators. These are... They have Blood 2, and they're Assassins. I think they may have Death 2 also. They're Assassins, though. So I would use these guys, because I think it's worth paying a few extra blood slaves for 1 higher path. Okay, so these guys with a sanguine dowsing rod are going to be right under 50. So it's going to be... 2 of these guys will be cheaper than an Anonqui. But they'll be effectively blood 3. And I'm pretty darn sure that 2 of these are going to 2 blood 3s are going to blood hunt a lot better than 1 blood 5, which is what these guys are effectively. In lowish unrest provinces. So I think you want to do that. And they'll probably hunt at least like 30 or 40% better. Now, the reason I say that is because right now you can't produce out of forts any blood mages, right? So your blood economy scaling is going to be based off of how fast you can blood hunt and get more blood slaves to get more blood mages. And like, it's like exponential growth. So being 30% better is actually a really big deal. Now, later you may switch to Anonqui, but Anonqui are like the luxury thing. They're like the thing you do once you have your blood economy going. They're not necessarily the thing you do to get your blood economy going. And I would suggest Reign of Jaguars may be better than Anonqui, but that's a decision you get to make. However, I do think focusing on the guys who are going to blood hunt better is probably the way to go. These guys also, if I recall, cost upkeep, don't they? Oh, no, they don't. Yeah. I would probably do like 8 or 10 of the other guys and then maybe switch back to Anonqui. If it's possible I'm wrong, if you think I am, go test it, see how much they blood hunt. I mean, we can probably look. How much are these guys getting? 3 got... I mean, this is a pretty good haul, but I'm pretty sure you get about the same from having 3 blood 3s. Like, it might be a little bit less, but you would basically, if he had gotten the other kind of thing, the Tempucci's or whatever they are, God, let's see what they're actually called. Oh, okay. Pucci, it does say Pucci at the end. Okay, I have no idea how to say that. But if he'd gotten those, I think he would be able to have 4 blood hunting provinces set up, making almost this amount. Like, he would almost have double. He wouldn't have the beast bats, and the beast bats are great. You know, they're pretty good at sieging stuff. But they're not. I mean, they're not great. They're okay. They're fine. And you're still gonna. You have 6 of these guys total, so you're gonna keep getting more. I forgot. Does he have Spirit Sight? He doesn't. Okay. But yeah, I would probably focus on those. Get the blood economy going faster. Like, you need a lot more stuff being blood hunted. Because you're a little bit on the clock. Like, you need to get this stuff going and have your blood economy ramped up. Like, 50 a turn is not really a healthy blood economy. Like, you need to get to like 200, right? And so it's like, how fast can we get to 200? And once you're at 200, if you want to get more in Anqui after that, you can even get them before then. But like, you need to go out and win these wars while at the same time getting your blood economy up to 200. So I think that's mostly it. The only other thing I would give thought to, you have a ton of gems up here, so you want to spend them on morale items and stuff, but you also probably want to think about what global you want. And I'm not really sure. It's going to be really hard to control any nature globals. Astral is probably your best bet because you have a lot of pearls. However, I think this also gives you pearls because it's a very great and balanced spell. So I don't know. I think you're going to have a hard time fighting for globals. But I would probably, I would spend the things I need. So like get the morale items and stuff. It would also maybe be good to have a golem, which you could maybe start, put like a charcoal shield on, because that'll help deal with some of this garbage over here. And send him in to hit some of these. Maybe put a shade mail on him too if you want him to sneak out, or you can have him return out if he gets into a rough situation. But I'd start knocking out. If you do decide to go attack him, I would have a golem or something else to help do some long distance raiding. But yeah, I think generally I probably would not go ahead and attack Pan. I would focus down here, finish off MA Pan, leave EA Pan alone for a bit, kill Airmore, who's fucked with you, and most importantly, I would have a big mile-wide communication channel with Nabah, and really reaffirm with him that y'all's fates together are intertwined, and that y'all's ability to quickly kill Airmore, and then to intercede in the Pangea and Lemuria War will be critical to coming out and winning. So anyway, that's my thought. I think you do have a path to win. I think it's a bit of a rocky road, and I think what's going to determine... I think there's 2 major variables that are going to determine your chances of winning. The first is going to be... But there's one other thing we have to talk about, which is him having Mother Oak and Mana from Heaven means there's probably like a 600 Gift of Nature's Bounty play that's in the cards too, which I think is like a game-winning move from Pangea. But we can't worry about that for now. But the game, I think for you, what's going to determine whether you really have a shot at winning is how quickly you can execute this war against Airmore. And that means being prepared for Vengeful Water, I think, primarily. You can't... And I don't think you can... I mean, you can maybe stop and do some preaching along the way. That's fine. You could do move, preach. But you're going to have to do a lot of raiding and stuff, too. But you need to execute this war quickly, do a big land grab, not be thrown off by Vengeful Waters. Wherever you can, soul slay these silly immortal preacher dudes. And at the same time, get your blood economy built up to 200. And you need to do that literally as fast as you can. Getting the beast bats is nice and all, but you must have a much bigger blood economy. And I think that's it. I think you've got a path to win. It's the ally Nabah. Pound Airmore into the dust, because they're not to be trusted. Do this quickly, despite Vengeful Waters being up. And then deal with Pan. And some of you may be like, hey, why would you ever go and attack somebody with Vengeful Water who's not in position 1? And the answer is pretty obvious. It's because this guy isn't going to help you kill Pan. Instead, he's fucking with you. And to make that even more of a better idea for you to not mess with early age Pangea while he's fucking with you, early age Pan is doing a world a service by fighting Lemuria. So unless I haven't really examined the throne victory thing, unless that becomes a thing, I would totally go kill Airmore, get some good lands, and then worry about these other guys later. So I think that is it. I wish you luck. And like I said, go check out Zan's channel. I'm not sure that this game's going to go up there. Maybe he puts parts of it up or some highlights or something. But anyway, I'll see you guys.